Execution Devil 9 style.
What's up, everyone? It's Execution Double Nine here, and now that I have hit level 80 on my Diablo 4 Necro, I felt that I'm finally in a good place to go ahead and talk about what my build actually is for in-game. And for me, probably what my build is going to be when the season starts and we move into season 1, probably at the end of the month. So first, I want to say that this is not so much a build guide, it's more of a build showcase. It's not about me sitting here saying that I've tested, I've experimented, and I've crunched all the numbers and this is the best way to make this kind of build. It's not about that. It's more along the lines of this is how I've played, this is what I like to do, and this is what I plan on doing when seasons come and things like that. So it's more just a showcase of what I've done, how I'm building my playstyle. So if you're looking for a numbers crunched, experimented build guide that's going to show you what the best way is to most efficiently level or to clear the content or anything like that, that's not what this is. Myself personally, I'm not a meta gamer. My gameplay emphasis is more on my preferred character concept and my play style. So I'll make adjustments within the context of that character concept to make it as efficient as possible, but I'm not going to start changing the entire concept because there's something else that's more efficient or anything like that. So as it stands right now at level 80, I'm currently able to clear nightmare dungeons as high as levels 86 to 88, which is going to be tier 33 to tier 35. I have tried 36, 37, have not been able to clear those yet, but I have been able to clear up to a T35, and I've been able to no-death run a tier 33. So the strengths of my build is it's good mob damage, especially with packs. I have good AoE, but I'm a little bit slower on the elite, champion, boss, single target kill speed, and that's a little bit of a preference. My playstyle is I prefer tanky over nuky. Now, of course, in a game like Diablo, of course, I want to be dishing out damage, but I like to have characters that are tanky, that can survive, withstand hits, things like that. Going into my ESO guild as a reference, they call my tanks like the brick shithouses because just unless there's some kind of like mechanics thing or whatever, my character just doesn't die. And so that's the kind of characters that I like to play. So that's kind of what I'm going for with this build. Now, it is a Necro build, which there's only a certain level of tanky that a Necro is going to be. And it is a mostly summons build Necro, which means, again, there's only certain levels of tankiness that it's going to have. But the playstyle that I use with this character is that I'm kind of the tank. I go in, take the focus, while my minions kind of swarm and then support me. So that's kind of the play style that I'm rolling with. So with that said, let's go ahead and get into it. Now, if you look there at the bottom of the screen, you'll see what my stats are looking like right now at the time of this recording. So speaking of that tankiness, you can see my life is sitting at 9,320, attack power 5534, armor 5570. Clearly, obviously, intelligence is going to be my main focus, as that's where all of my damage is dealt. Surprisingly enough, strength is actually my lowest right now, with a little bit higher stats in willpower or dexterity. Considering my focus on tankiness, I would like to bring my strength up, so that's going to be one of the focuses that I continue doing, but for the time being, that's what they're sitting at right now, and as I continue to level up with my Paragon board, things like that, we'll go ahead and start increasing that strength, getting that brought up a little bit. Next up is my main offensive ability, which is Blood Surge. That's really kind of the foundation of what I wanted this build to be after playing around with skills in the open beta, early access, all that stuff. So I really like close combat, kind of AoE type stuff, so Blood Surge was kind of a perfect choice for me to make as one of my main damage skills that I wanted to invest in. In fact, as I started this character, I kind of went back and forth on if I wanted to be a full blood mage or not, but I did end up succumbing to summoners as minions and skeletons and stuff. That's why I love playing necromancers. So I am using blood surge. I know most will use bone spear, but for me, blood surge fits thematically and conceptually with what I like doing. So I do have it buffed up all the way up, and I kind of bounce between both of the advanced options at the end of the branch. But the one I'm working with right now is the overwhelming blood, so that I know I get an overwhelming attack every 5 blood surge casts. So basically, the concept is I jump right in and I start getting to work with blood surge and start taking all the waves of mobs down. The next skill is my supplemental damage plus essence regeneration, which is my corpse explosion. I've gone back and forth between the shadow dot and the normal burst, but for the time being, I'm using the normal burst. One question that I have had about it, though, and I'm still kind of playing around to figure this out, is if the shadow dot, all of those damage over time ticks, if those proc the cooldown reduction on when I'm using amplified damage. I think they do. I feel that it's gotten a little bit slower on my cooldown since I've gone to the normal burst, but I am enjoying that it does the additional damage to vulnerables and crowd controls, which I'm doing a lot of, and the massive damage on the front end is helping some of that single target damage that I talked about with that kill speed. So I've noticed that I'm able to bring down the bigger targets a little bit faster with this. So right now I'm sticking with the normal burst corpse explosion, but as I continue to play around and experiment, I may go back to the shadow dot. Next up, I want to talk about what is actually the newest addition to my build, which is Decrepify. I had been experimenting for a while through my build with different single target attacks like Bloodlance, Sever, Bone Spear, trying to find out what I thought might be a better single target attack to make up for the lack of single target damage that I have. But I found that experimenting with some curses instead, that actually works a little bit better with my build, specifically using the Decrepify skill, which ends up being as like an engine to keep my build running, as it reduces the cooldowns, so it allows my ultimate to pop more frequently, and it allows a higher uptime on my golem vulnerability. It also counts as crowd control for my damage bonuses, and since it adds slow, and if you can find damage bonuses to crowd controlled enemies, this stacks on top of that as well. Plus I have the amplified damage passive, so I'm having amplified damage, vulnerability, crowd control damage bonuses, so those debuffs can all kind of stack up on what I have focused on with Decrepify. Plus, with the recent hotfix, it also helps guide the minions, since minions will now attack something affected by a curse. So I can kind of focus my skeletal minions in a certain direction. It's not 100% perfect, but it does help a little bit better to keep my minions focused. So all in all, I find that it has a much better synergy with my build than a single target attack does. Specifically, I feel it synergizes really well with Blood Surge, because I can drop a Decrepify, jump into the middle of the pack, and since my Blood Surge is AoE, all of those hits now are counting towards the Decrepify cooldown reduction. And so there's instances where I can be popping off ultimates before the effect of the previous one even finished, so I can keep a much higher uptime on my ultimate, as well as a higher uptime on my golem vulnerability. My ultimate ability is up next, which is Army of the Dead. I think that it's the most practical one to use with a minion build, obviously, because it keeps my minions replenished. It also helps buff my minions. I've gone back and forth with using Bone Storm a little bit because it fits the AoE theme, but ultimately I like the utility of Army of the Dead. It's a buff and it's a refill on all of my minions, so it's been very beneficial with my build, as well as doing a little bit of extra damage output as well. Last up is my minions. With my summon skeletons, I'm using the Reapers, and I'm using the option from them that generate corpses. So that helps have an engine for corpse explosion and summon skeleton, which obviously also doubles as essence generation. And for my mages, I'm using the cold mages with the version that gives me essence. So the cold mages are providing me with continued essence generation as well as crowd control with the chill that they are dropping down. This pairs with my iron golem, the version who has vulnerability. So between all of my minions combined, I'm getting corpses, which act as essence generation. I'm getting crowd control, and I'm getting vulnerability with all of my minions combined. This brings us to the fun part of the build, which is all the different items. I don't necessarily need to talk about every single stat on my items because that always changes, but I do want to talk about what roles I'm looking for, or I should say what affixes I'm looking for, and what aspects I'm looking for. So starting off with my weapon, I've chosen a two-handed scythe. I chose two-handed because I like the more powerful aspect that gets put on it, and I'm rolling with scythe because you get the 260 life on kill. Well, you get 2 life on kill, the number is going to be different, but you're going to get life on kill, and also it's the highest damage that I have found so far when it comes to two-handed weapons. Now I don't know for sure that that means scythes do more damage than like two-handed swords or something like that, but just in the loot that I have gotten, the two-handed scythes I've noticed have the highest damage stat. Plus, like I said, they have the life on kill as well. So for my scythe, I'm using the Army of the Dead, the Unyielding Commander aspect, so that I can get the additional buffs to them with their attack speed and the reduced damage that they take. Combining this with the Decrepify and the cooldown reduction, and being able to pop Army of the Dead more frequently, this has been making my minions more powerful, giving them more damage that they're able to dish out as well. The affixes that I'm using on this two-handed scythe are the all stats and intelligence are the main two that I really like on this. I have high rolls of both of those, and then I really like the 55% damage to close enemies since I'm using my blood surge and getting into the mix of things, and then I also like the 60% ultimate skill damage to help make Army of the Dead even more powerful. Then we move over to the runic leggings of the Crowded Sage. So healing of life per second for each close enemy. So since I'm in the thick of things with my blood surge, I like having bonuses that I get for close enemies. So this is the healing. It helps keep me topped off. And then I'm using the +3 potion capacity. The potion capacity is kind of a must-have for me with the way that I play, since again I'm in the thick of things and I'm always taking hits, always taking damage. So I like having a lot of extra potions. I also love the max life, helps with my tankiness. And then the 3 ranks of Corpse Explosion are helping out as well. The other affix on here was really good when I'm using the Shadow Dot damage reduction from enemies that are affected by shadow damage over time. Since I'm not currently using that at the moment, I'm not getting the benefit from that affix. But if I ever do go back, that's going to be a good benefit. I've already re-rolled on this particular piece of gear, though, to get the +3 potion capacity, so I can't enchant and re-roll that affix. And then I have the Coldbringers Adventurer's Boots. Every 10 seconds, Cold Skeletal Mages cast a blizzard that deals cold damage, continuously chills, which is the main part that I have this for because it's additional crowd control from my Cold Mages. So that's definitely very beneficial, as it's a little bit of crowd control, stops the enemies from attacking me, slows them down, frees them up, stops their mechanics, things like that. I have the +3 max evade charges. I love having the max evade charge. Being in the thick of things, I need to be able to bounce around quickly. And then the affixes on here that I'm a fan of. The all stats mostly. The strength is a good one since that helps my armor. I do have dexterity. That's not necessarily a focal point of my build, but it's good to have extra stats, especially for Paragon board bonuses and stuff. And then right now I have rerolled 8.9% essence cost reduction, although that's something that I might try to keep rerolling, see if I can get a better affix on there. I am bouncing back and forth between two sets of gloves because I like my runic gloves of Frenzied Dead. Each time one of your summoning minions damages an enemy, they gain attack speed. Plus, I love my affixes: 4 ranks of Blood Surge, 51 dexterity, all stats, and intelligence. I love all 4 of those affixes. But I also have Ancestral Unique Howl from Below, which gives me lucky hit chances for stuns and fears, which is more crowd control, plus additional damage from the corpse explosion aspect on there. So I've been bouncing back and forth between these two sets of gloves. I haven't decided exactly which ones I want to stick with permanently. For my chest piece, I have Maximum Skeleton Warriors increased by 2, and then the affixes that I'm looking for on here, that max roll for maximum life is great, the extra intelligence is great, total armor is great, and then the re-rolled enchanted 23% damage reduction from close enemies, also very beneficial with that whole Blood Surge, melee range AoE thing. And then my helm, Runic Skullcap of the Embalmer. Consuming of Corpse has a percent chance to spawn blood orbs, and this is a huge piece of my build. Because the blood orbs are also helping me out with not only with healing, but using the blood begets blood Paragon board. I'm getting damage bonuses and stuff from the blood orbs. So I'm focusing on having blood orbs be a big part of my build as well. The 3 ranks of Decrepify, the max life, and the 41 intelligence are my major affixes on this. I have the cooldown reduction, which is also helpful as well. And then my last pieces of gear are going to be my jewelry, starting with my amulet, the Vicious Choker, which has maximum number of skeletal mages increased by 3. I put my mages on here to get the extra mage to help out with the crowd control that I'm getting from the other aspect, as well as their chill, also additional essence gain. And then my affixes, I like the total armor affix. I reroll to get 3 ranks of amplified damage passive. And then I'm a fan of the ultimate skill damage affix, as well as damage reduction from close enemies. Circle of the Potent Blood legendary ring. I'm using, well, at full life, Blood Orbs grant essence, and then the affixes rolling on that is maximum life, Blood Orb healing, fortified generation, damage over time. Those affixes, except for the maximum life, aren't actually a big deal for me, so if I get something with different affixes and I can re-roll maximum life, I'll go with it. And then the Blood Bathed Loop, Blood Surges Nova echoes again after a short delay, dealing additional damage. And then of course I have the maximum life affix. I like the maximum minimum life. Damage to distant enemies, I'm not really doing much distant damage. And then critical strike damage with bone skills, I'm not using bone skills. So either one of my rings, if I get one with different affixes, I can re-roll back onto max life and maybe get some better affixes. And then I'm focusing on fire, poison, and cold resist. I haven't noticed much problems with shadow or lightning, so I'm not focused on those so much. I've been having biggest problems with cold, poison, and fire, so those are the resistances that I've been focusing on. For the final part of the build, let's go into the Paragon boards. I'll start off with the legendary nodes that I'm using. The first one is going to be Cult Leader. Minions deal 45% increased damage for each minion type I have active. Since I'm using all 3, the warriors, mages, and golems, it's going to be 45% in terms of that Paragon board. I have that one filled up with all of the different rare nodes. And then my second board that I have, or I guess technically the third, is going to be Blood Begets Blood. Blood orbs grant 5% increased damage up to 15% for 5 seconds. I'm still actually working towards getting to that legendary node, but that is my next one that I'm working on, and that's going to synergize well with my helmet that gives me blood orb drops whenever I consume a corpse. And then in terms of my glyphs, the main one that I've been using is Golem, which gives 25% increased maximum life to my Golem. And then based on levels, right now he's also up to 95% additional damage. My next glyph is going to be Blood Drinker, which is blood orbs fortify me for 7% of my maximum life. And then I also have a 114 bonus to all magic nodes within range. And then I get a plus 5.7% damage increase, 57 armor, 15 willpower. And then my third glyph that I have that I just unlocked is going to be Control. So for every 5 intelligence purchased within range, I deal 4.4 increased damage to crowd-controlled targets. And then the additional bonus, you and your minions deal 10% increased damage to slowed or chilled enemies, or instead 20% increased damage to stun and frozen enemies. So my skeletal mages are doing chill, my Decrepify is doing slow, so I'm going to get an additional damage bonus with this. Right now, I'm up to 34.8 damage to crowd controlled enemies, and then so those are my 3 glyphs that I've been working on as well. So that's what I'm looking at the Paragon board for right now. When I move into my next board, I'm thinking about either the Hulking Monstrosity to continue buffing up my golems, or I've also thought about the Overpowered one as well. So I'll have some things to think about as I work towards my next boards. That's it for my level 80 Summoner Necro build. I'm having a great time with it. I know that it's not like a super meta, super optimized build or anything like that, but as I said, it's getting me through Nightmare Dungeons. Currently able to push up to a tier 35. I no death to tier 33. So as I continue leveling up, I'll be able to push more and more and more. But it's been a pleasure working on this video for you guys and for myself. And so I appreciate you guys checking me out. And if you want to check out the build in action, you can check out my Diablo 4 streams. I stream on Twitch every weeknight at about 8 p.m. Pacific time. Usually Tuesdays I take off due to some other commitments. And of course my schedule may vary depending on what I have going on, but typically I try to do weeknights at about 8 p.m. Pacific time. So thank you guys for joining me. You can join me on Twitch at twitch.tv/execution99. Until next time, this is Execution99. Take care.
Execution double nine style.